The Associated Press is still failing to put some respect on the Oklahoma Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. He's Jay Smith of Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, for college football and more Oklahoma Sooners content. I'm John Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. And on today's show, we're going to break down why the Big Ten is trying to ruin college football. I don't understand what they're up to, but they are actively trying to ruin the sport. Or get into whether or not the offensive line has improved for the 2025 season. But we're going to start with the All-American preseason team from the Associated Press that included 0 Oklahoma Sooners, Jay.
0. So there were 12
0
players on the 27 man first team, 12 of them from the SEC, and we didn't have a single one of them on there, which, I'm going to be honest, John, it's okay. I'm cool with that. That allows us to continue to be on the, underrated, be able to sneak our way in. Because I think at the end of the season, we're going to have a couple of players on that list at minimum. I think we'll have at least one on offense, maybe 2. We'll definitely have one on defense. And that's what's most important, is where you end up in December. But the fact that the SEC has 12 of 27, it's pretty darn huge, means that there's going to be a lot of competition. I think Texas had like 3, all of them on defense and on the first team. Alabama had one on the offense and defense. You saw some interesting selections. So I guess for Oklahoma, maintaining an underrated mindset is probably our best thing.
Yes, and at some point, you're going to have to recognize what Oklahoma has done on the defensive side of the ball. You're going to have to recognize R. Mason Thomas. You're going to have to recognize Jayden Jackson and Grayson Halton and Robert Spears Jennings and Kip Lewis. You're going to have to give some of those guys some love at some point. They will this year. Oklahoma's going to make them do it this year. And again, if you aren't going to take into account a guy like R. Mason Thomas, who had 9 sacks on the season last year, 6 of those in SEC play, someone who was a terror in the third and fourth quarter in games, I don't know what you're looking at necessarily. This is one of the best pass rushers in college football, somebody that Missouri had to triple team at the end of the game last year in order for Drew Pine to get off of a quasi Hail Mary to Luther Burden to give them a chance to win that game.
Yeah.
If you're getting triple teamed at any point in the game, you're an All-American in my book.
No, I 100% agree with you there. And when I looked at the list, though, the list is pretty good, right? Second team is TJ Parker from Clemson, Mateo Uyunglele over there at Oregon. Not bad at the edge spot, so I totally understand where they go there. First team is Colin Simmons from Texas. Everybody's high on him. Dylan Stewart's the other one. So it was one of those like, okay, I kind of see where they're going with this. I'm not as mad, but you're right. At some point, they're going to have to recognize the talent that Oklahoma has. And I believe Oklahoma's going to prove them wrong. They're going to prove them wrong at the end of the season. It's one of those, because of last year and because of 3 years ago, we're in a situation where we have to constantly prove ourselves. I actually think John Mateer is going to end up either first or second team at the end of this season. I think he's going to put up a ton of numbers, and he's going to be one of those players that everybody's going to recognize. He's going to be everybody's already starting the media portion of it, right? Josh Pate's already got him up there for Heisman. Matt Hayes over there at USA Today has talked up Oklahoma and how he thinks that we're a playoff caliber squad. You're starting to hear a lot of people point out, and Dave Pollock was talking about John Mateer. So basically the media, the main media people, they're looking at this saying, hey, that dude's going to be fun to watch. And because he's going to be fun to watch, if John Mateer produces that fun to watch football, he's going to start getting the recognition in this capacity. He's just got to go out there and do it. So we'll know post Michigan where he's going to possibly end up. If he goes out there in the Michigan game and he cooks If he gets some runs and some passing yards and he's out there blowing it out, John, is a good chance that, man, not only is he going to be targeted, for everybody's going to be focused on, game planning around him and Ben Arbuckle, which, helped out our boy Jayden, but that's going to get him the recognition. We need to put some stuff on paper so that when teams think about Oklahoma, they're like, okay, this guy, they need to get those votes.
Who's another player on the offensive side of the ball that you think could join a guy like John Mateer on the offensive All-American team?
If I'm going to be honest, I was thinking about it, like probably Deion Burks. I think Burks has a chance of redeeming himself coming in. I mean, he had 600 yards at Purdue before he transferred, and he hasn't put up those numbers yet. I mean, last year is pretty injury-ridden. I think that he's going to have an opportunity to end up in the conversation around, especially if he can get himself to about 1,000 yards. I don't know if he'll be our 1,000-yard receiver, but to be honest, besides him, I really think that Jayden going to end up putting up. I think he's going to run for 1,000, and I think he's going to be forced to be looked at as one of the top backs, up there with Jeremiah Love, up there with Nicholas Singleton. Right? He's going to be up there with all of these running backs. Hughes at Oregon, which actually I've said that Hughes is a Heisman dark horse in my opinion. I think they're going to run him into the ground. But I think that Ott has a really good chance of shocking a lot of people by just playing really hard in the SEC and putting up some numbers.
Yeah, I think Jayden Ott is an obvious choice there because they're going to give him the ball and they're going to give it to him a lot. And he's going to have an opportunity because the offensive line, which we're going to talk about here in a second, is going to be improved and it's going to create a better run game for the Oklahoma Sooners. Defensively, aside from R. Mason Thomas, who to me is an obvious choice, who do you think could end up on an All-American list for the Oklahoma Sooners?
Honestly, I'm thinking Jayden Jackson in the middle.
Yeah.
The way that I was listening to Gabe and Teddy talk from Oklahoma Breakdown, and the way that they rave about the way he moves, how he put himself as a, freshman All-American and the way that he was going, he's probably the name to keep your eye on the most. Because that's one person that I know everybody's looking at. Freshman All-American, so that automatically puts you on the list of people that the AP knows about and they're going to be paying attention to. So that gets you a little bit of quote-unquote clout out there. But then you go a little bit further back. I think Robert Spears Jennings is the other name outside of R. Mason Thomas that's going to really be heavily looked at. I don't know about linebackers. I mean, Kip Lewis, of course, has put up, a couple of Kip sixes. If he does that again, he may actually end up being the guy that's looked at. But I think Robert Spears Jennings and Jayden Jackson are the two that are most likely to get that recognition, just because I know that Jayden Jackson's already been on the list and he's been really heavily looked at. And I think R. Mason Thomas is, with his high grades, he's one that the draft people are saying he could fly up the charts because he has the ideal size for that position.
Yeah, I think there's enough talent on the Oklahoma side of the ball that somebody should be represented by the end of the year. If I was going to take a top three, R. Mason Thomas would be the first, probably Jayden Jackson, and then I think Robert Spears Jennings. I think he's going to have that big time season. He started the season really, really strong with a lot of turnovers, big splash plays. I think this year he'll continue it for the whole season, and we'll see him making plays, especially in crunch time in the second half of the season when Oklahoma's in the midst of that really, really tough part of their schedule. That's when he's going to really show up and show out. The offensive line has been a big talking point for much of the last year. Are we in a better spot in 2025 as Oklahoma gets ready to start the season than we were last year? We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason's already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. Whether your eye is on big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in the game. So if you're really thinking about it from the NFL side, you got a couple of weeks for that to come in, but college football is coming this weekend with Iowa State and Kansas State. You want to put something on Avery Johnson getting so many yards? Like, this is how it works. Prize Picks is very simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stats projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. And they got the flex option. Play option is a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you still can double your money. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, rule your game.
If you're trying to stay hydrated this summer and stay on top of your routine, whether that's with workouts, long days on campus, or trying to get through the day with better energy, trying to get your mood up, even get your skin looking better, now's the time to stay hydrated with Drip Drop. I've been loving Drip Drop, and the fruit punch in particular has been a fantastic flavor to keep me hydrated. Drip Drop is a doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. I've tried a lot of electrolyte powders, but nothing tastes as good or works as fast as Drip Drop. It's excellent. Sorry, I'm at a loss for words sometimes because of how good this is. You know, I've had a lot of sports drinks. I've had a lot of electrolyte replacements. You know, working in the medical field, I've had a lot of things recommended to me, but this one works the best. I always keep a few packets in my backpack for work, for when we're on the go. It saved me more than once from that midday crash. So right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and use promo code Locked On College. That's dripdrop.com, promo Locked On College for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jay, we're going to be going position by position as we get ready for the start of the 2025 season, just to give a little update on where things are and answer some big lingering questions about each position group. And up first is offensive line, because that has been the position group that's probably received the most attention over the last year, and rightfully so. It was underperforming last year, and it came into the offseason with a lot of questions. How are you feeling about where the offensive line is right now as we go into the season?
The one thing that Bill Beatonbow has this year that I don't think he had as much last year is he has really options, and he feels very comfortable with. He's been able to see a lot of these players play, and he's following the development trait. The sheet of how well they've developed, week over week from last season into this season. And so to me, I think he knows his starting 5. But when you have a few players out and you purposely sitting them out due to, I think there's a couple of them that were in concussion protocol, as I mentioned before here on the show, that's kind of what happens when you have the physical style of play that Oklahoma is trying to play. Like, if you have that brand where you're going to be physically imposing, some people are going to get their bell rung. It's just the unfortunate side effects of that. Plus, football is a very dangerous sport. It's so dangerous that you're not even allowed to tackle the quarterback. So keep that in mind when it comes to how all of this works. But for me, I think that Bill Beatonbow has a good idea of what he wants to work with. And so he's got, I think, 10 players that we know will play, and then an additional 5 that will begin to get some experience, especially in the 3 non-cons that are a little bit more lighter, like Temple, Illinois State, as well as Kent State, so that your veterans can get a little bit of rest in preparation for the big SEC gauntlet that we're going to deal with. So to me, there's 10 players I think that he's ready to play, and they're interchangeable. They've all worked together in some capacity or some sort. And I feel like that's where we are right now. A lot of people think that that's a problem. To me, if it wasn't Bill Beatonbow and it was a bunch of new players, I'd be concerned. These are dudes that are retreaded from last season that were young, that got some really good experience last season. I think that they've got an idea of how it's going to go.
And it sounds like it's more of one of those good problems to have. It's not like last year where you're just trying to find 5 that you could put out on the field. It's you've got 5 that you really like. You've got 5 more that you also really like, and maybe a couple more beyond that you also really, really like. And so competition has been furious, and it's been fierce this offseason as Bill Beatonbow tries to figure out who his starting 5 is going to be. And it could very well be one of those situations that isn't necessarily settled for a lot of the season, because we saw it back in 2023, right? Caden Green was not the starting left guard early in the season. That was Savion Byrd, right? And then as time went on, Caden Green started getting more run at guard and eventually took over at that position and didn't let go of it the rest of the season. So I'm not going to sit here and say, the starting five that we see week 1 against Illinois State won't be, but it wouldn't surprise me if we see this evolve throughout the season. I think the good news is you feel better about the depth that you have and the position that you're in health-wise going into the year than where you were a year ago. Does it still have a lot to prove? 100% it does. Yeah. It's not a group that you can just sit there and bank on. They've got to go show it, and we won't know it until Michigan. Michigan will be kind of that first big test of the season, because you expect the Michigan defensive front to be really good, but also Auburn and Texas, and they're going to have to prove it week after week after week, especially in SEC play, before I think everybody buys back into Oklahoma's offensive line. But I don't think it's going to be long before we see them do that. And again, this offensive line doesn't have to go be dominant for Oklahoma to be successful as a team this year. They just have to be above average for most games, good a lot of the times. And if they're great, obviously that's going to give Oklahoma a chance to win a lot of games, but they've got to be above average to good for this team to have a chance.
That's the good thing about this Ben Arbuckle system, is that he gets the ball out pretty quick. So you don't need as much time. Too. Yeah. Your goal is to make sure that you get your playmakers in space and let them do what they do best, perform in space. And that's the expectation for me, is that with this offensive line, like, I have a couple of configurations in my brain that I'm assuming that Bill Beatonbow probably has in a similar way, based upon all the reports that's come out and what both of us have been told. It's roughly close in similarities, right? Sexton, EPL, Troy Everett, Fabichi Wewu, and then Derek Simmons, followed by Michael Fasusi, who could at some point take the job. Like you mentioned, Caden Green got in there initially as the guard against Texas and showed his strength. And then they kept him in there and was like, hey, this is going to be your spot for now. We will move you out to tackle as you develop. Because that's the one thing that Bill Beatonbow does, and not like a lot of coaches don't do. He's known for this. And this is kind of like, I think Andy Reid mentioned this when he was talking about getting linemen from Oklahoma. And other NFL guys have said they like that Bill Beatonbow makes sure all of his dudes can play all the positions on the offensive line. He makes them learn how to play in each spot. And playing left tackle and right tackle are two different positions, and the players, offensive linemen, to tell you that. Beatonbow likes you to be able to do that before he throws you on the field, specifically because you never know when you're going to need somebody to have to sit in somewhere else. Again, this is a violent sport, so it's going to happen. But to me, the 10 configurations, and then right behind there, Fasusi, Heath Ozida, who could switch in as your starting left guard. I heard that now that he's healthy, because that's the other thing. We had a lot of players that had some small procedures over the winter, right after the season was done. You had some shoulder procedures or whatnot, some cleanups, and so you didn't have a lot of dudes in the spring that you were expecting to. Ozida could walk in there and he's battling to get that position back that he had last year. He could start. He's a big boy too, so he's got the size you need, and he did well last season when the line was actually healthy and he wasn't trying to do double duty. He looked good out there. So from there into Mikla, the transfer from Stanford, who has a starting experience. That's another good one to have in there. Right guard, Foger. We know he's walked in and has been a unit. And then right tackle, Logan Howland and Jake Taylor are both battling to be right behind Simmons. Or, you never know, Howland could win that spot. I know Gabe Eichert was really excited about that. And he said, hey, I think this is his best position. I've told him that numerous times. He may actually battle heavily with Derek Simmons for that spot. So we'll see. We'll know. Illinois State will be a great example of the mindset of Bill Beatonbow, but Michigan's going to be the game where you'll see what his first unit's actually going to be.
What do you think the biggest position battle is still to be lined out? To me, it's left guard. Like, I feel like if Sexton's healthy, if Simmons is healthy and not battling the concussion symptoms, those are your starting tackles to start the season at least. And then Fabichi Wewu and Troy Everett will be your starting interior at center and right guard. To me, it's just left guard seems the most up in the air still. I
think right tackle's more up in the air. Like Derek Simmons has gotten a lot of praise, but he's got a little bit of history with concussion. So there's a chance that position could be battled. We'll see. But I could totally see Logan Howland fighting his way back in there. Like he's done a really good job of developing. And again, right tackle is his best spot, but left guard's an interesting one because we all assume that EPL will come in and be able to take that spot because he came in as a highly touted, high 4-star on Rivals. I think he was like top 4 in the country in interior linemen on their site. And he looked like it. The problem is that he couldn't come in the spring because Tampa Catholic didn't allow early graduation. He came in the summer, and so he's a little bit behind in learning the playbook. Well, it's a new playbook. And this time, Heath Lozada did not practice. So you're right. That one probably is the one that's the biggest. And then, of course, we all know Michael Fasusi's trying to find a way to get on the field.
Yeah, we'll see what transpires over the next couple of weeks of practice. We're not talking about fall camp anymore. We're talking practice because the season is here. Week 0 is coming this Saturday. Cannot wait for college football season to start. Oklahoma's still 12, 13, or 11 days away from the start of the season. But the Big Ten keeps coming out with some crazy college football playoff expansion ideas. And I don't know what they're doing. We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
If you're running a business, every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you needed a service. If the person didn't answer, do you wait? Probably not. You moved on. That's why you need Open Phone, so you can never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. Do you juggle 2 phones just to keep business and personal calls separate? I do. And Open Phone solves that instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more who's handling that. Something to definitely check out. So see why over 60,000 businesses trust Open Phone. They're offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/locked on college. That's openphone.com/locked on college. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers.
Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you didn't think that the Big Ten 16 team, 4 automatic qualifiers for the Big Ten and the SEC, 2 automatic qualifiers for the ACC and the Big 12, and then 1 to the Group of 5 and 1 to Notre Dame. If you didn't think that playoff scenario, that playoff expansion format wasn't crazy enough, well, they decided to go ahead and one-up that. The Big Ten last week was reportedly in discussions about proposing a playoff format that would be 24 or 28 teams, eliminate conference championship games, and allocate a large number of automatic bids to the Power 4 conference, including the Big Ten, as many as 7 automatic bids to the power conferences. And Jay, I am at this point ready to go back to the BCS or the polls to decide the national championship, because getting to 24 or 28 teams to me is ludicrous at this point.
So basically it sounds like they want to eliminate conference championships. And that to me is a complete hard stop.
Non-starter.
Non-starter whatsoever. Conference championships to me is the backbone of college football, especially because you got too many teams. Look, there is no perfect system. There never will be one. Why? There's too many teams to try to determine this. And the other big problem I have with this is that you're going to put 7 teams in from the two biggest conferences. Understood, they're considered the best, but so what's the point of having the other teams? Why do we have the group of 6? Again, if we are going to do anything close to that remotely, G6 needs to have their own playoff system. They need to have their own setup. They need to do their own thing. They should not be involved with FBS like this. It should be into 2 tiers, and they have their own, similar to like D2, D3 type setup. Specifically because everybody's trying to find more and more ways for them to never get a chance. Sure, you may feel like they would never be able to compete. That is totally fine. In football, it's very hard to have a Cinderella, because in the end, it's usually the healthiest and the strongest that typically wins it all. 100% agree. But John, this is absurd. Like, why are we going to try to eliminate? To me, if you want to go that route, make it that way. Have a playoff system where you lead to the conference championship, and then whoever wins the conference championship is the one that plays in the final portion of whatever your playoffs are. We got to stop ignoring the G6s, in my personal opinion, because then, to me, again, why do they exist? What is the value of it?
Yeah, if you're going to not give them access, or you're going to overemphasize some middle of the pack teams in the Big Ten and the SEC, then get rid of the playoff altogether, because let's look at who were the 7th place teams in the Big Ten and in the SEC. Tied for 7th in the Big Ten, Michigan with an 8-4 record, 8-5. I guess they were 7-5, and then they won their bowl game, so they were 8-5 on the season. But they were 5-4 in Big Ten play. Minnesota was also 8-5, 5-4 in Big Ten play. Does anybody care to see them get another opportunity at the playoff? No, nobody does. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
Do we want to see Iowa?
Yeah, well, let's look at the SEC, okay? So if we want to take even Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina off the table, because they were like the next 3 teams that were in consideration for the 12-team playoff last year. But again, they finished 9-3, 9-3, 9-3. But Missouri, they were 10-3 on the season. Okay, they went 5-3 in SEC play. Texas A&M 5-3 in SEC play. Do we want LSU 5-3 in SEC play? Do they need another opportunity at a national championship? No, they do not. And I get it. Ohio State, they lost a game to Michigan, and they got another chance at the national championship. Okay, but that's a little bit different, okay? Because they were still one of the better teams in college football. They lost their rivalry game, lost in the Big Ten championship, but they still had to get to the Big Ten championship. I have no interest in seeing a 4-loss team, and really I don't have much interest in seeing a 3-loss team make the playoff. Even if it's Oklahoma this year, I would not love that.
No, it wouldn't be interested in that at all. Like, I want the top teams to play, and I don't want more football just for the sake of more football. I think that's the thing that people don't understand. Once you get more into the December range, I'm not here for just football to have it. All these teams are beat up. These players are beat up. I would like for it to be better quality. I want the top teams to battle it out to end the season. Like, I'm exhausted at that point. Like, I'm thoroughly enjoying every minute of it, but I'm tired. I know that it's so. If in a perfect world, John, the national championship will be on January 1st, and it would rotate between different sites. It will be the evening of that day, or it will be the Saturday around it, or the first Saturday after the first. Because to me, I think the biggest malpractice in college football is having a national championship on a Monday night.
Yeah.
Period.
Hate that.
I hate it. Put it on a Saturday. Make it huge. It'll be a lot easier for everybody to travel and get there. I mean, sure, you take off work, whatever. It's around the holidays. So most people ain't working anyway. Totally get that. Cool. Cool beans. Give me some Saturday night action. I know it will be live. So do it around the Saturday of the 1st or on the 1st. That, to me, is probably the best case scenario every single year. And then some of the college football purists out there, as they would call themselves, they'll have it at the Rose Bowl occasionally. That would be awesome. I'm totally here for that. But I don't want it to always be at the Rose Bowl. No. I want it to move around continuously. I want it to maintain in your Big Six, from the Rose Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, down to the Cotton Bowl in Texas. Well, it's at Cowboy Stadium or 18, whatever. I don't know what it is. Jerry's Circus, we'll call it that. Yeah. But go around to the Sugar Bowl, Peach Bowl, or the Orange Bowl. Give me that. I'm here for it. But we need to, for real, if you're going to do all of this crazy stuff, you better make sure the brackets are set up to where it ends around that time. I don't want to go further into January. I don't want that. That is the worst. I want it done right around when winter starts. And that, to me, is the perfect time for college football.
Yeah, if we're going to expand it to 24, 28 teams, and you're going to add 2 to maybe 3 more rounds to the playoff, then you're going to have to start cutting non-conference games.
Yep.
Because you're going to start asking these players to play 20 football games in a season to go win a national title, or 18. To me, that's nonsensical, and it doesn't make sense. I think you're right. The season needs to be from last weekend of August for week 0 until January 1. Call it good. Or if you want to have the semifinals on January 1 and then that next Saturday, the national championship, fine. But you're right. College football is built for Saturdays or for New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. That's when it should really all come to a head, and it would be a momentous occasion. Monday night college football national championships or Thursday night semifinal games just does not hit the same way. So unless it's a New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, but anyway, digression. So anyway, I don't love it. I think 12 is the right number. I don't even like the idea of 16 at this point. I'd even be okay with them going back to 8, to be honest. I know that would sometimes impact Oklahoma's ability to make the college football playoff and have an opportunity for a national title. But if you go 9-3 on the season, do you deserve to play for a national championship?
That part. If you go 9-3 in the season, do you deserve to play in the Natty? And in my personal opinion, no, you shouldn't.
You don't.
It is what it is. That's how college football is, baby.
And I'm sorry for being an advocate for college football playoff expansion at this point. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on every podcast platform and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button and that notification button to let you know when new episodes drop. We're going to be going live on all Saturdays, every post game for the Oklahoma Sooners. We'll be here reacting with you here on YouTube. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, on YouTube. You can follow my work over at SoonersWire.com. And the show is at Locked On Sooners on all your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer.
Sooner. No more expansion. Let's go backwards.
Go backwards.
Make it mean more.
Retraction.